I wanted this in the worst way, to become a rock and roll photographer. I started taking 8mm movies actually before I started taking photographs. I would make movies with my best friend, my friend Jeff Sackman. It was about just some kind of magic trick or just kind of some stop-and-go animation around my house where I grew up. We were big fans of pyrotechnics. I started by taking pictures of friends, my brother, and so on. And I discovered about the Tropicana Motel, and that's where the Ramones and all these cool bands would hang out. So I just started by just hanging out. I made friends with people who had the same kind of dreams and aspirations that I had, and they were all movers and shakers and doing things on the Sunset Strip. There was Rodney Bingenheimer, who was the mayor of the Sunset Strip, who knew everyone, who had all the connections. He introduced me to Kim Fowley. Kim was this incredibly charismatic, and he managed the Runaways, and he had a whole list of accomplishments and bands. And then I had my mentor, who was a guy named Richard Creamer. He was this wonderful eccentric photographer. And then, of course, there was Joan, who was my main muse. I'm talking about Joan Jett. She was very charismatic and very cool, and she, like me, was rather shy, so we got along very well together. And without a doubt, she was my greatest muse of all time. So, we had our pack, and I don't think I realized back then that I was walking into some really cool situations. A situation like maybe hanging out with Johnny Ramone and Joey Ramone and Dee Dee and so on. I remember, Joey would be like, "Wow, Brad's got a camera, how cool is that?" Every time I'd get a picture of a rock star, I would go and make my prints, and I would write up some hokey letter. I sent dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of these things out. I would get rejection after rejection after rejection, or they just didn't care. But remember, nothing could stop me. I was just on a mission, and I never took no for an answer. Sent a picture. I went to a Bob Dylan concert, and I was able to get a front row seat. It was like a gift from God that I got this great seat. I took like one roll of black and white and one roll of color. That's all I could afford. And I sent it to a magazine in London called Sounds, and they published the picture. If I wanted to make money, I would have become a doctor, or I would have sold real estate in Beverly Hills or something. This was for fun, it was for creativity. So one time in 1976, I get invited to my friend Ronnie Blakely's showcase at the Roxy Theater, and she took care of me, and she came over to me and she told me, she said, "Bob's coming." Like, "Bob who?" "Bob Dylan." And I thought, well, I've heard that before, but it was true. He was there, and I saw him in the audience, and I saw him go backstage. He was escorted by someone to go backstage, and then Ronnie brought me back there. So I got to meet Dylan. First thing he said to me, he says, "You look like me," which I did, because I had the Dylan fro. And to me, it was just unreal, because here I am, I'm standing there in front of this god, and I've got this camera around my neck. And then I just asked him, I said, "Is it okay if I take some pictures of you with Ronnie?" And she grabs Dylan and just starts hugging him. And at one point he says, they're talking about this young actor who's downstairs. The young actor turned out to be Robert De Niro. Taxi Driver just came out, and so Dylan really wanted to meet him. He says to Sally Kirkland, who was there, to go and to bring De Niro there. She did all the talking, and she said something like, "Yeah, we got Bobby Dylan upstairs, and he really would like to meet you." And De Niro's like, "Yeah, sure, come on." He said, No, it's true." He gets up, he hesitates, but he gets up, and he walks up the stairs, and Dylan gives him this big hug, and I'll never forget that evening. It changed my career completely.